and welcome back to the GKC show. I am Mark Lombardi and here with your co-host Sam Whitaker, and we have Brandon here with Pixelrug, and we are going to we're going to dive deep, deep, deep into the metaverse, but we're not going to do it until you smash like buttons and you subscribe and you do all the wonderful things that you're supposed to do for these videos, comment on them and tell us how much you love Brandon and him being on the show. So all that good stuff. Without further ado, I've got a little metaverse-ish kind of background behind me, which is why I picked that. It's just a Google Meet background, but trying to get ourselves into the metaverse atmosphere a little bit.
Is that Zuckerberg over the corner sitting by himself?
This is my pale metaverse face. I gotta get my lighting to be better in the future, but hence no natural light in my basement here where I record. So, just a little, Brendan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Brandon. I run the Pixelrug project minted on Hedera. I also work and own a creative agency, and I've been in kind of the technology and arts business and community for, I don't know, 10 to 15 years. Previously was in like a touring rock and roll band as a drummer and vocalist. So I've always been passionate about art and technology and how they can kind of come together. A few times in my career, I've been able to bring them together a little bit, which is exciting. But upon discovering Hedera and becoming, an HBAR enthusiast, I discovered that, wow, the world of NFTs is really cool. Because I think the thing that prevented me from getting into the NFT space initially was just, the issues with other networks, gas cost, and, impact on the environment, all those kinds of things. So after I looped back and realized, NFTs could be an artistic outlet in a different type of way for what I like to do. And I love Hedera. I decided to do the Pixelrug project, and I wanted to do something that wasn't an image. There wasn't yet a foundation for music NFTs on Hedera yet. So I gravitated towards the metaverse. My business partner, Joshua, he's a metaverse sound designer. So he's quite extensively versed in the metaverse and kind of turned me on to that kind of stuff. And here we are. I'm making metaverse rugs, and I'm going to be getting a VR headset soon as well, so I'll be fully plugged in and online.
I haven't had an opportunity yet to step into spatial in VR, but Brandon, you and I kind of discovered spatial IO around the same time. You've definitely dove a lot deeper into it than I have. Your Pixelrug gallery, it looks fantastic. If you want to plug that, I don't know if it's spatial IO /
yeah, it's actually Pixelrug.art / gallery. It'll get you right in there. Open 24/7.
So I love the idea of furnishing our metaverse, right? A rug, a coffee table, obviously we have artwork on the wall. What other kinds of things do you see kind of populating a metaverse space to personalize it?
I love that you touched on that. I mean, for me, the world of NFTs right now really tap into a big element of artwork, which is when you own that piece of artwork, it says something about you. So for example, you see all sorts of different characters and animals and representation of different types of people. But I kind of fell in love with the concept of what if we did inanimate objects as NFTs? And the metaverse is really interesting because it opens up that possibility that actually makes them exciting. Where if I were to mint a JPEG of a rug, it might be kind of cool as pixel art, but I didn't think it would be something that captivating. But when you can put it on the floor and have it kind of be an actual rug, then you start to tap into that a little bit, where it becomes a representation of you and your style and all those kinds of things. So I've definitely been thinking about, in regards to the metaverse, a lot of these environments and platforms are just kind of cookie cutter elements. They all kind of look the same. And I thought, taking that a step further, would there be a way to make it your own And outside of that, just like maybe in your home, you'd have an expensive, vase from a vacation or something that has a story behind it and has provenance to it and is worth something. You'd probably have something like that in the metaverse. And I mean, in the future, we've seen conversations about phygital collectibles, right? Digital and physical collectible put together.
We need to
So
come up with a better word for that, though.
I know that's the best word I heard of. I mean,
it is the best one, but somebody's got to come up with something better. I don't like it.
Right.
I don't.
We'll be stuck with it forever.
honestly, I think, fortunately and unfortunately, I think phygital might stick for a little bit. But I get it. I heard it for the first time, and I was like, eh. But I mean, it's quicker than explaining how digital and physical collectibles fit together.
Yeah, I love what you did, especially like the just kind of the tongue-in-cheek thing about it being a rug is awesome too. Because, and I think we talked about this when I got my welcome mat rug. I think we'd have talked about it on Twitter or somewhere when I want to be able to customize mine to add "Please leave by 9" on my rug. So let's make that happen for the next release.
They have. I should say, I am a collector of pixel rugs, and it is beneficially announced that they're the super rug super holder. Does that stuff all public knowledge? I can talk about.
So I actually just published that. Like maybe 30 minutes or an hour prior to doing this interview. So we have the custom series coming, and this is going a little bit deeper into what you were talking about, Mark, with the metaverse and kind of expressing yourself and having those types of collectibles and objects in your metaverse. And with Pixel Rug, we've got the first edition series, and then we had the limited edition series. Those were great, all sorts of designs. People love them. But the number one piece of feedback that I got about the project was people having ideas for their own, and people wanting to see a one-of-one Pixel Rug. Right. And so I thought a great way to do that would be to, again, go back to a little bit of an old school vibe and do commission artwork. So right now, of course, we've got the super rug holders, folks that own 3 or more Pixel Rugs, and those will be able to very soon in this fall join a waiting list where basically they can work with me to design a Pixel Rug for them. And it'll be something that, is to their specifications. It's their idea. They'll have it for their own, minted on one token ID. They could sell it on Zeus Market later, or they could put it in their metaverse spot, and it's theirs exactly the way they want it. And I think that's really exciting, because when we look at objects in homes or stuff like that, sometimes the most special ones are the ones that we've had an element in creating. Right? Like, I chose this color for the wallpaper, or I did this, or I did that. So I think for a collectible, it's really interesting to think about not just toggling switches or a random one-of-one generator. Working with somebody to create something in a commission artwork capacity, I think, is really interesting.
Well, it makes it makes the metaverse a little bit more of an extension of the artist's gallery, right? Where you would sit and talk with them about what it was that you wanted to create. And you've done a couple of, or I don't know how many events you've actually done in your meta space, but how do you feel about how those have gone and the interactions with people?
I think it's great. I mean, the big thing for me is with NFTs and this technology, like blockchains and Hashgraph and all those things. For me, it's all about communication and bringing people closer together. If the technology is really good, it'll just fade into the background. So I'm leaning into ways that you can hang out with people, bring people closer together. And I think we've had maybe 3 or 4 hangouts in the Pixel Rug Gallery. I'm learning about what people like, because this is all really new stuff. Not everyone has a VR headset. I don't yet. So the experience can sometimes be a little limited. But I'm learning, what types of things people love to do in a platform like Spatial. I actually had an opportunity to speak in front of the whole Spatial team. I think there was like 30 employees there in a Spatial metaverse environment. And I was talking about what I thought should be done with the platform and some recommendations I had. And really, what I see unfolding is an opportunity for someone, for example, to come to the Pixel Rug Gallery and have someone there and be like, I'm looking for a rug and I have some questions about the project. And it could almost be more efficient because they can see them, they can walk around, they can get some questions answered, and they could do it in like 5 minutes and get out, versus like trying to chase somebody down in Discord or try to get into someone's Twitter DMs. So I do see the metaverse working for NFT projects in that way, kind of like a showroom or something like that. The same way you'd have a Discord mod, you could have someone that's dedicated to just being present and available in the spatial.
Well, that's kind of what you said. Two things that you said that we're so early to all of this. I mean, the entirety of Web3, the entirety of NFTs. I mean, it's I mentioned a bunch of times that there's the statistic that Jordan found that 4 billion internet users, like 150 million people have interacted with some kind of cryptocurrency, and only like 7 million have interacted with NFTs so far. And we're still just scratching the surface of what NFTs can be. So, most of it is, NFTs have been born in art, but it's going to be so much more in terms of, I mean, it's a secure and ownable way to own data. But when you're talking about the metaverse types of things, I mean, just the level of interaction we're going to be able to achieve. But to your point, it's got to be seamless. It's got to be where you don't really know what's happening. So take the idea of like a Zoom meeting, and a Zoom meeting becomes a VR meeting where you can actually not only see people, but you can interact. You can write on a whiteboard together. You can, do any number of things that you could do in a normal meeting. But all of these things that, like when you're talking about Pixelrug's a great example because it is artwork, but it's also functional because people are going to want to decorate their metaverse. They're going to want to personalize their metaverse. So I think as you see a lot of those things, digital fashion and artwork and functional things for the metaverse are really going to start to come more to the forefront as this VR technology becomes more seamless.
Can I just make a quick note
sure,
about something that I love about the Pixelrug project, in that it fits the proper definition of metaverse to me, which is a lot of times people think of, that VR world that you're in interacting with people, but your rugs are also augmented reality capable, right? You can place them into the real world and take a picture of yourself at the beach laying on your pixel rug. Kind of
100%. I would have, I've had DMs with people, for example, shout out to Hadarian Z, that's always in our Discord.
Yeah.
He would send me a message here and there, or I think he maybe posted this in a channel where he was at a park or something like that, and he was doing that same thing where it's cool in Hashpack Wallet now. You can there's like literally like an augmented reality button in the wallet. You beam the pixel rug somewhere, and he was taking pictures of like the pixel rug like in cool strange locations, and he was like, I was taking all these pictures, and his wife was like, have you taken a picture without a pixel rug in it yet this whole time? And I was laughing because it is kind of fun. Like people will shrink them like really small and like put them beside
on
their
a
mug.
Yeah, I've seen people try to put them on their desk and have it as their mouse pad.
So it is really fun. And I mean, something that when I hear Jordan talking about NFT.com and these different types of concepts, I can relate to his approach, where I think that some people have the mentality of, okay, we're building on Hedera. How do we get people from other chains to join in on the fun or find that interoperability? Where on the other side, I do see people that think a little bit outside of that and go, how do we get the other 97% of the world population to even understand what any of this is and figure out how to have them purchase an NFT and use it without using a wallet or something like that? So there's this kind of higher level of thinking that is really distant, I think, for some people in Hedera. But I really think that when we talk about the metaverse, it's the same kind of thing. You can't really define what a metaverse is. We're in a Google Meet call right now. Technically, you could say this is a kind of metaverse. And imagine if we token gated this call where you guys and myself would have to hold a pixel rug. Thank goodness we all do, or we wouldn't get into the Google Meet, right? So you could obviously say this is a metaverse too, or a stock market is like its own little metaverse or something. So we're also figuring out like what exactly a metaverse is,
And that's, again, being so early to it is it's going to evolve. It's going to become what it becomes. And to your point, the mass adoption is the silver bullet for all of us. And when
Yeah.
you're talking about, I agree with you 100%. It's not about, I mean, sure, bring people over from Ethereum, bring people over from Solana. But I think it was Alex from the HBAR Foundation who was talking on some call. Maybe it was the Saucer Swap call or something. I don't know. But he was talking about how, you know, kind of this, all this stuff we talk about different chains and cross chain interoperability and things like that. The real goal is for people not even to realize what
Right.
they're working on. So if they're buying an NFT, they don't necessarily have to know, is it Solana or does it go in my Solana wallet or does it go in my hashback or can this fit in MetaMask or do I have to associate the token or whatever? I mean, for mass adoption, that stuff's all got to go. It's got to
Yeah.
be absolutely seamless, and people just need to say, "I like that artwork. Let me pay for it," and that's it. And that's the goal that we're all working towards. And NFTs are going to be the, kind of the key to making that happen and getting people involved with NFTs on a very simple level, to where it's something very easy for them to obtain and use. That's kind of
Yeah.
where we need to get.
Brandon, where do you see music and I don't want to, let's just stick with music for right now. Where do you see music, or how do you see music as a role in pushing people into the metaverse, right? Is that like the key thing to draw people who are outside the crypto world into a space where they can kind of consume whatever media, band or DJ or whatever it be that's entertainment in the meta space? Is that the catalyst that brings people in?
I think music is a really natural progression into kind of like the metaverse, right? But it also depends on what your definition is of the metaverse. Again, it's like if what constitutes a metaverse is an integration of Web3 stuff, then by any standard, like if Spotify integrates a Web3 functionality, that could be a metaverse. There's a
Right.
social component, all those kinds of things. And if you define a metaverse by some kind of visual environment, VR, AR kind of thing, well then it
Mhm.
could be something like a spatial, all those different types of things. And I mean, performance is a big element of music, right? You can have a song, you can listen to a recording of a song, and that can really only go so far into like bringing people into the metaverse, because
Right.
it's like, well, why don't I just listen to it on my phone? Like,
Right.
what does it mean? And then the performance aspect of it is you start to build that connective tissue where if you want to see a band play live, you have to go there to see that happen.
Hmm.
So then you start to see the introduction of musical performance and art performance. A great example, again, is my business partner, Joshua. He, for example, did a theater production in a platform called Altspace in VR. And you would have
Okay.
actors and all these types of things all coordinated, putting a show on in, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, afternoon and evening. Same type of theater vibe, but you're in your house, you put your VR headset on, you
Yeah.
go in and it's all acted out. It's more immersive. Also, too, you'll have people doing VR concerts, right?
Hmm.
So someone in VR doing a concert. Now, I think that people gravitate to music because it's an experience you have to go to. If that experience is in the metaverse, people
Hmm.
might go there. But I think the issue right now is the hardware, the software to be able to do it. Not
Yeah.
everyone's computer can run spatial or their device can run spatial. Not everyone has a VR headset.
Hmm.
Also, too, generally in some of these metaverse platforms, the audio quality isn't great. It might be laggy. It's similar to a Zoom call. So
Yeah.
you want to have that big sound stereo, right? Moving your head and having sound move.
Hmm.
I haven't seen a platform quite yet that gives that experience either. So really it's up to the artist to, because if we look back in time throughout music specifically, it's the artists that push the industry and technology forward.
Yeah.
And that's what we're starting to see play out now is people are just bootstrapping and putting on a show in the metaverse, and a couple people show up to experience it, and maybe it's not great, the sound is a little laggy and it's a little lame, but they're doing it and it'll get a little bit better next time.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll start to get to that point where it's actually a really great experience that's maybe comparable to an actual show. Of course, it's a virtual environment. You might be able to do things that you couldn't do in real
Right.
life. Everybody's in the front row or something. So it's
Where does
interesting
that
in that
take it?
respect.
I had a really I don't even know how, maybe it was a couple of years ago now. I had a really awesome experience for Marshmello put on a show inside of Fortnite, and it was an incredible experience. There were points of weightlessness, and everybody started to doing the same dance programmatically without needing to hit buttons or anything like that. It was
Cool.
there was the light show was fantastic. You could move around it, you could build outside of it and get yourself at a different view. Um, it was a really intriguing and fun experience. I just don't see any other platforms that are set up to be able to handle it very well. Like you said, audio quality is an issue. There really isn't a venue per se that has been purpose built to consume music and visual entertainment within
Well,
that space.
some of it's coming. So if you look at, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Van Gogh immersive exhibit that's kind of traveling around the
I think
country.
I've seen
Yep.
that. Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible. And they actually the company that put it on is called Fever. They just got a pretty massive influx of capital from, I think it was Goldman Sachs, and they're building out an entire metaverse kind of
Oh,
equivalent for what they're doing.
it's
So
interesting.
I think things like that can kind of be a gateway to where, if someone goes, someone still has to go somewhere to experience, to have the metaverse experience. So let's say they go to a museum or wherever it's being, or a theater, or wherever it's being put on, and then they get their VR goggles, and then they get to have this AR experience with the Van Gogh exhibit or whatever it is. And that is kind of their gateway. They get home and say, wow, maybe I could just do this stuff in my boxer shorts on my couch. That would be cool too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, with the music thing, I actually heard somebody's going around trying to buy up old footage from like 60s and 70s rock bands concerts,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
kind of trying to like buy the copyrights for these things and try to like eventually piece them together. So like you could see Led Zeppelin in 1971 at like playing in LA, kind of pieced
Okay.
together with a bunch of stuff. That could be absolutely amazing. I would definitely buy a VR headset if that was
Yeah. Same.
available.
Yeah. Oh, they can rebuild the concert from in 3D from video footage
I
at
think
different angles and stuff.
I think they're close.
Yeah.
That's why they're
That's
expecting
cool.
people will be able to do it in the future. But yeah, I think it's those kinds of things, like when someone has an amazing experience, whether it's a immersive Van Gogh or it's a Led Zeppelin concert, it's a sporting event or whatever, where they can kind of experience the VR AR type of things, and then they get home and they say, "Wow, this is pretty cool. Let me figure out how I can do this more often." But that's the market's going to determine how that happens, and people are going to figure out ways to make money doing it, and that's basically how it'll evolve.
And I think like you were saying, Brandon, it takes a artist with some creative process to be able to really crack the egg on what is going to work, right? It's not necessarily going to work exactly like the music industry works right now. There will be different channels that will make things more efficient, and the
Yeah.
end product will look a little bit different. But I think it takes tinkering and people to experiment with some different outlets to get us to what it actually looks like in the future.
Yeah, they're going to break a lot of eggs along the way, but
Yeah, for sure.
that's innovation. That's how it happens. Move fast and break things.
Yeah. And I
You gotta
mean,
crack it. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, let's not kid ourselves too that there won't be mass adoption. I mean, when we look at the experiences that you can have, like yourself, Mark, and Fortnite, it's like super cool experience. Like doesn't matter where it was or whatever. It was a great experience, and
Mhm.
you'd go do it again. That's enough for a lot of people. And when we look back in the early web, it's like you think of streaming video over the internet, right? When Netflix was mailing DVDs. It's
Mhm.
like that was something where it's like, oh, that's not going to happen. Even before that, oh, everyone's not going to have a computer in their house. So when we see conversations of like, oh, who's going to wear a VR headset and join these things or
Mhm.
all these, it's like it's going to happen because we've seen it happen over and over and over again. If the experiences are really good, people will go and check them out, and that's really kind of what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, when your glasses are,
Yeah.
when your headset is as light as a pair of glasses, and it's easy, everybody's
Yeah,
got.
like look at this phone. I can access
Right,
like
it's
the
ridiculous.
entire knowledge of humanity in my pocket. It's like weighs less than a deck of cards, and it's like, who would have thought like 10 years ago, this would be like, I can scan a room or beam a pixel rug on the floor. It's like VR headsets, who knows what's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, the Steve Jobs of that is out there somewhere right now in a garage, just plugging away, coming up with what's going to change, blow all this out. I mean, he or she, they're out there right now.
Actually, just a real quick shout out to HGraph Punks, Patches from HGraph Punks, and Vicente from the Vicisi project. They're actually doing a Metaverse concert soon, token gated, which is really interesting. They're going to be building their own platform, and they're going to be doing that. And when we talk about artists driving technology forward, that's what it's about. It's about people getting together with developers, with an artistic plan, with real artists, and creating these experiences. And that's going to be something built on Hedera from like grassroots artistic bootstrap community. I think they're going to be starting off with just a concert and spatial to kind of see how it goes. But that's the kind of things that we need to shine a light on, because if we see those experiences do well, that just opens the gateways for folks like NFT.com and everybody to go, oh, people are digging this. We could just jump in, pick up and go, you know?
And that's the amazing thing. What you said right at the end there was that this, all of a sudden, there is no barrier to entry.
Yeah.
You don't need an agent. You don't need to get booked at a club or, audition. You just put your stuff out there, and people can, you can get directly to your consumers, and they can decide if they like it or not. That's Web3 in general, is breaking down all barriers to entry, whether you're a developer, whether you're an artist, whether you're just an entrepreneur. Web 2, we saw the start of that. Someone can put a website out there, and they can everybody can view their website. They don't have to be in the yellow pages or whatever. And then Web 3 just takes it to the next logical step that anybody can do anything, literally.
Right. Yeah, and your same common barrier is that it's difficult to get attention, right?
Yes.
So that will always be a common thread, but you're right, the barriers to entry will come down. And just like you see all of these, there's a lot of people. I just went to a festival, and Billy Strings was the headliner. Here's a guy who made it big with a song on YouTube that went viral, and then all the next thing you know, he's blowing up. Obviously, it was a very long road to get there, and he put in an incredible amount of work for it to happen. But those are, Justin Bieber is another. He was probably the first example of, I'm a big YouTube sensation, and now I'm a big pop star.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes back. That's where it all comes back to the center of Web3 and its community. But there still is, like, to your point, there's still a barrier to entry, and that is getting people to consume your stuff and getting it out there. But you don't need an agent. You don't need a record company to press your record. You don't need a radio station to play it. You just need the hustle to get out there and build your community. And obviously, you have to have a good product. But if you're willing to get out there on Twitter and be on the Discord channels and just pound the pavement, you can do it in Web3. You don't need anyone else.
And there are. So go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's a big thing too, is when we talk about Metaverse and like what constitutes a Metaverse, is Twitter a Metaverse, is this call a Metaverse or whatever. I think that sometimes an overlooked element of, Web3 and Metaverses and stuff like that is just communication, right? And right now, like, I'm pretty sure that Discord single-handedly is propping up the entire NFT ecosystem across chain. Exactly, right? And it's because communication is such a huge part of art, right? Like, art within itself is trying to communicate something to somebody. Like, two major schools of design is design that's up for interpretation, or design that's up for that isn't up for interpretation. Like your Google Meet background, Sam was like, oh, what if Mark Zuckerberg's in the chair back there? It's like, that's a little piece of art that people can, interpret and play around with. But something like a doorknob should look like a doorknob and have people know what to do with it. It serves a utility. So there's all sorts of different types of creativity and design. And when we look at communication, I go, that's a part of art. That's something that you can look at through the lens of art and go, is there a better way to communicate using a technology like Hedera, like a platform like NFT.com, those types of things. And you start to think about what Spatial's doing, what, shout out to Galaxy built on Hedera, a social media platform built on Hedera. You start to go, oh, there's a way I can communicate with people that's decentralized, built on a Web3 layer 1 network. That's really interesting. And you start to go, do I need a Discord in the future? Do I need a Twitter in the future? That's another really interesting element of all this, because if you want to talk about metaverses and being Web3 and in the metaverse, I don't know if that includes a platform like Discord or Twitter, because that kind of goes a little bit against what Web3 is about.
Yeah. I was
And
actually,
the last piece being, I mean, we hit on most of the main pieces, but the last piece I think for all of it surrounding metaverse is ownership and control. And this is your data, this is your life, and you choose who gets to see your data, gets to interact with you. It's absolute personal control, and that's the core. I think it's part of what, along with the decentralization of Web3, I think that's a big part of why Web3 is such a collaborative space and why so many people want to work together, is that, it's not us against them, it's just building. And we're all building for our, personal brands and our personal data. So, it's exciting.
yeah, it's like the kind of like building the railroads out or building highway systems out. Every state wants to have the best highway that they can, but at the end of the day, I need to be able to drive from Maine to Florida.
I'm actually not sure that every state wants to have the best highway they can. I think
well, they obviously right.
The minimum required highways to
Yeah.
But are states not judged on the quality of their highway by outsiders, right? I absolutely hate driving through the highways in New York, going through the tri-state area from Connecticut into New Jersey. It's just atrocious.
I can tell you that up in Canada, we are judged by our highways, and they're horrible. So, I think that when we think about highways, we think about all these different things. One thing I always return to when I'm thinking about what's the future of NFTs and metaverse, like all these kinds of things, is one of the reasons I think what piqued my interest about Hedera, which was, what is every project trying to do, whether it's like an NFT project, like, HBAR Boons or Crypto Pandas or something, some project, or a bigger project
or
like
Hold These Nuts.
Hold These Nuts.
It's massive.
Right?
You're putting names up, man. Come on. Go with those.
But by the way, real quick, Sam, like, what's the background on the Hold These Nuts name? Is it just peanut astronauts?
It's just fun. We just thought it was funny. Huddle These Nuts. And we were like, let's have a peanut, and then let's put him on the moon and give him a Speedo.
I dig it. I mean, mission accomplished with that. It's I remember seeing you pop up in a Spaces for the first time, and I was like, this guy, what's going on here? But I was going to say, like, connecting highways, like all these projects, big or small, they're trying to create like their own little world with maybe their own rules and their own ways to communicate, and then highways to connect with all these other places. And that's what makes me always stay grounded in that kind of ethos of what Hedera is about, is that kind of shared worlds concept, right? Is what if an NFT project that was really big had its own little hash graph over in the corner doing its own thing with its own rules, and could send those state proofs to the main net to participate in that. It could have its own little exchange. It could have its own little thing. So I often think about that too, about what does the world look like beyond just all being on the same network,
Yeah, we are communal creatures, and we will gather in spaces with like-minded people, and I think that that's essentially what the metaverse represents: is a place for like-minded people to get together, share ideas, and entertain each other,
and also truly discover something new. Like, I found that the best way to discover something new is going to a place where there's people that maybe are unfamiliar to you that you can like talk to and learn about and get kind of immersed in it. And it's like the digital equivalent to that kind of is a metaverse, where you're like looking around and checking stuff out, and you're kind of the odd person out, but then you fit in and you start to learn. And then, it's different than just like reading an article or reading a Twitter thread or something like that,
Yeah, being able to interact with people is, and again, it's taking down the barriers to entry. You don't need to get on a plane. You don't need to get a passport. Whatever it is, there's no barrier to
Yeah.
entry.
And it's also just like being invited somewhere, someone asking you, like, come here with me, let's go to this place together. That's a special feeling that, like, again, you can't do on Twitter or something, inviting someone somewhere, going somewhere with them. That's cool.
Well, there are definitely lots of fun things to explore in the future. Metaverse, whatever it looks like in reality or virtual reality or augmented reality or artificial intelligence implanted into our brains.
Put it out there.
It is definitely an
I will
exciting
give
world.
$1,000 to anyone who comes up with a better term than digital.
Cool.
Like, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
These nuts, $1,000.
Comments below. He's putting his money where his mouth is.
Something better than digital, please.
Something better. For sure. Well, I want to say thank you very much, Brandon, for coming out and talking with us. I know you got a really busy day and schedule ahead of you, and you got to jump off of this call and head right into some other stuff. But we appreciate you being here. This is a great conversation. And thanks for coming. Anybody else got anything else they want to quick plug or add? Or?
Yeah, thanks so much, Brandon. This was fun. We haven't really had a chance to talk pure Metaverse, so it was really good to have the conversation. And like all of these calls, we could go on and geek out for like 3 hours every time. We have to put a hard stop on it.
And people would probably watch it for that whole time too. I mean, for me, it's like that. This is what being in Web3 is all about. It's about, again, technology getting better and better, so it kind of falls away, right? Like, again, just this video call, doing something like this years ago would be a whole production. Now I click a link in my calendar and it's like, boop, I'm seeing you guys and we're hanging out. We'll keep getting there. And I mean, really appreciate you guys having me. I just want to say, like, I'm a huge fan of NFT.com. I think the whole idea of decentralized ownership of like a URL, like a socialized, social profile, and doing those types of things, shepherded by like an OG Hedera guy, Jordan. I think that's so great. So for me, it's like, I'm going to be really excited to see what you guys are doing in that community, highlighting the Hedera ecosystem, because I think that Hedera has a lot to offer for NFT.com.
Well, there's an update today that was actually going on while we were recording, so we'll have to dive into the GKC updates and see what came out. So unfortunately, that information won't be in this episode, everybody. So you'll have to hold on till next week when we figure out exactly what happened while we were here chatting.
Oh wow! Breaking news live. You heard it here first. Or you didn't hear it here first.
You hear it here a week later. Awesome. Well, everybody have a great afternoon. Thank you, everybody who's watching, for joining in. And we'll see everybody in the GKC Lounge and out on the Twitters and out in the Metaverse.
All right. Shout out GKC.
Bye. Thanks, Brandon.